If y'all tell anybody y'all saw me crying on YouTube, the way we gonna fight is crazy. Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. I know it's been a super long time since I have updated you guys on what's been going on, and so I figured to get back into the groove, I would do a little bit of a life update. So if you're not following me on Instagram, actually, even if you are following me on Instagram, I haven't really been sharing a whole lot about what's going on in my life, and so I figured this was kind of the perfect opportunity to do that and give you guys a little bit of insight on what I've been going through, where I've been, what I've been working on, and what I have coming up. And I want to say the last video I did, it's been some months. It's been some months. But I didn't even go through a season where I was like, I don't want to create content anymore. I don't want to be on YouTube anymore. I just think that this year has been about listening to myself more, and with that, it's been about honoring what I'm feeling more. And I think in the past, especially, and I know a lot of people can relate to this, but I was so used to kind of like pushing myself to do things. And while that's necessary and has its place, it is so unhealthy to find yourself in a space where you are constantly pushing on yourself and pulling on yourself and not realizing that sometimes you just need to be still. So that's what the first half of 2025 has been for me. I have gone through so much. I know I updated you guys a couple months ago. I had a surgery. I've had complications with my health since then, which can be just very difficult in itself because obviously you have the issue with the health, but then there's also the mental strain. I have a business that I haven't been able to fully tend to. I'm a caregiver and I haven't been able to fully lean into that responsibility as well. I've been focusing more on my mental health, and that journey has taken a lot out of me. And so this year has been a year of giving myself grace in the way that I've always extended others grace. And it is so important that, I know for me, it was important for me to realize that there was nothing wrong with slowing down. Like, it was nothing wrong with realizing that I needed a second. It was nothing wrong with me telling people no or turning down invites or just not going to everything. And I'll be honest, I struggle with a lot of guilt this year because I just haven't been at the things. I haven't been as visible. My friends and people who know me have made comments, all in love, but have made comments about not seeing me and kind of being like, where have you been? I haven't run into you. And I'm just like, this has just been the year of me. It's been the year of closing in on myself and really figuring out what Crystal needs and what it's going to take for me to get to the next level for myself as a woman, but also as an entrepreneur and also as someone who just has goals and things that she wants to accomplish in her life. So this year has snatched my wig, okay, in more ways than one. But I am just happy to still be here through it all. I am going to get into a little bit of detail. I've been trying to figure out if I wanted to really dive into the details of my caregiver journey, like how I became a caregiver, some of the things I had to go through to get my mom to the place I've gotten her to, what the mental strain has been on me, and maybe I'll kind of make that more of a series, only because I know that more people in their 30s are dealing with being a caregiver for aging parents more than ever, it kind of seems. I know, like, growing up for me, I only really saw people in their like 50s, 60s, you know, in their older years caring for their parents. And something that has been extremely difficult for me in that space is finding community. And when you are, hold on, let me get myself a glass of wine. Tonight we're doing, this is kind of like a Chardonnay or maybe like a Sauvignon Blanc, but I need a little something to us. Shout out to Scott Louis. Oh, it's delicious. I would show y'all the brand, but they ain't pay for this video. So maybe we can persuade them to sponsor a video and then I'll share it with you. But this is actually a really good white. Not sweet, not too dry, right in the middle. But one thing about me on this caregiver journey, I feel like I've had a really tough time finding community as a caregiver for a couple of reasons. Number one, because of my age, I am in my 30s. Because of my mother, she is only in her 60s, and her condition has presented in ways that, so the number one thing that has made it very hard for me to find community as a caregiver has been my age combined with the age of my mother. So I've definitely met caregivers who are in their 30s, but they're still caring for people who are elderly. So my mother is a senior citizen. She's over the age of 55, 60, but she is not elderly yet. She's still in her 60s. And that has been an incredibly difficult, a difficult thing to navigate, because like I said, there aren't a lot of people in their 30s managing being a caregiver for a younger parent with a cognitive issue. And even the way this whole caregiver journey has happened for me, it has just been incredibly isolating in a lot of ways. And it wasn't until really this year that I realized, so before I say that, I've been in this caregiver space now for 3 years. And when I say, and I don't know if I've ever talked about this online, but I have been struggling for the past 3 years. Oh my God, I said I was not gonna cry. Okay, hold on. I have been struggling for the past 3 years. And I think this year, the reason I haven't been as visible, the reason I haven't been as vocal, is because I haven't known, like I didn't know how to navigate what I was feeling. I didn't know how to put it into words. I didn't know how to really talk to people about it, because it's just something that you feel more than you can express. And that is a very, very tough spot to be in, especially for somebody like me who I don't really have a problem opening up. I'm not, I'm pretty much an open book. You ask me a question, I have no problem answering it. But with this specific topic, I just didn't have the words. I didn't have the language. And it wasn't until this year, I am the therapy bully, okay? I tell everybody they need to go to therapy. Therapy has absolutely changed my life. But it wasn't until this year that I was able to identify that I have been mourning for the past almost 3 years. And I talked about this very, very briefly on TikTok. I was on a live on TikTok maybe a week or two ago. And I kind of spoke about it candidly with a couple people that were in my live, because there was a young lady on my live who spoke about her partner, being a caregiver for his parent, and just like the changes she witnessed as his partner, the changes she saw him go through as his partner. And I felt seen in that moment, because I have been pretty much single this whole time. When it comes to like having somebody right next to me during this journey, it's just been me. And I felt seen because, she was able to identify a lot of the things that I haven't been able to openly express. And so I said when I got back on YouTube, like when I made my first, my life update video, I wanted to kind of use it as an opportunity to be open and to be more vulnerable, which again is something very hard for me. But I have been mourning. I've been mourning the loss of my mother over and over and over. And it's something that I've heard it, so my mother has dementia. And like dementia is something that you can find, first of all, dementia it just refers to cognitive decline, right? She doesn't have a specific type of dementia that's been identified, as much as there is just obviously evidence of severe cognitive decline. So with that, you can look at plenty of articles and there are, interviews and things like that you can watch, but none of them quite prepare you for what you experience, especially watching a young senior parent go through it. When I've mentioned it to people, which I actually stopped telling people that she had dementia, not only because I noticed that people look for opportunities to relate to you, and they don't necessarily have to. And so, when I would tell somebody, they'd be like, oh yeah, I know what you're going through. you know, I watched my great aunt go through that, and my parents and their siblings took care of her, you know, that type of thing. And it's no knock to anybody who tries to offer, you know, some type of some type of relatability through their own experience. But for me personally, that has exacerbated the feeling of loneliness and isolation that I feel. Only because there's nothing like watching your mother or your father go through this. And when I say I've been mourning this entire time, I am somebody who is so used to being able to roll with the punches, right? Things happen. Everything. I'm a very much everything happens for a reason kind of person. So I don't dwell on things that happen. So you experience something, you take it for what it is, you process it, you go through whatever emotions the situation requires, and then you move on with your life, right? That is largely the type of person I've always been. And so this experience has been absolutely new for me in every single way, shape, or form, because I haven't had the experience of. I haven't had this experience before. I haven't dealt with anything like this before. So it's not something that I can take on the chin, accept, and move on, because they call dementia the slow goodbye, right? For one reason, obviously you watch somebody decline, but the other part of it, and this was something I don't think I had ever seen in the pamphlets or on the videos or things like that, is that you mourn and you grieve over and over and over. As this person dwindles before your eyes, you say goodbye to different parts of them on a regular basis. And so grieving becomes your default. And it has been so hard for me to give myself the space to grieve, because I have always depended on myself to get things done, right? So for a long time, I could not wrap my mind around the fact that I was going through something so traumatic. I'm just like telling myself, like, you just gotta like keep rolling, keep going, keep going. And I couldn't. I was like frozen, numb. You know what I'm saying? Like that was the word. Like I remember talking to my therapist, and she was like, well, what are you feeling? And I'm like, nothing. And she's like, why are you sad? I'm like, I don't feel anything. Like I feel numb. And I have never experienced anything like that, you know? So this year, like I said, has been about catering to myself, because I do feel like a lot of the health issues I've experienced this year have been because of all the grief and all the feelings that I hold in my body. I feel like a lot of the health issues I've gone through this year have been because of everything I'm holding in my body. And it's not like I walk around acting like everything is okay, as much as I focus on what is okay instead of what is not okay. And I don't know if that's necessarily the best way to cope. Like I said, I'm in therapy. I'm definitely still healing and working through a lot of this. But all I can do is what I know to do in the moment. And I'm constantly evolving. I'm constantly growing. I definitely have grown leaps and bounds from where I was when I first came back to Michigan. Which is something I haven't really talked a whole lot about either, but this has just been the absolute hardest era of my life. So now I'm in the process of rebuilding, right? I'm in the process of figuring out who Crystal is as a person who has to be a caregiver for their mother, as someone who is mourning the loss of her mother's support in a lot of ways. So now I'm rebuilding as someone who has gone through this experience, and you know, I'm in a space now where I want to honor myself and also still honor my mom, because while I know she would appreciate me for, you know, my sacrifices to be here for her, I know she wouldn't want me to not pursue my dreams or live up to my full potential at the same time. So with that, where I have been this year, I started grad school in January, which I think I spoke about in my last vlog. But I started grad school in January, and I'm going back in a couple of weeks. I'm getting my MBA in finance. I'm currently still trying to rebuild my business, which is a whole other video because I really do kind of want to have like a like an open dialogue about a season of business that feels like failure, but you realize is necessary to get the business and the ideas to where you see them. You know, there's a lot of like duality in life, right? But I've had to really hone in on that in this season. And that's looked like, you know, knowing that, okay, you may not have excelled in this particular part of your business, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the business is the problem. I think setbacks sometimes like have to be viewed as the setup for a comeback, because sometimes, like, I know for me right now, like even in other parts of my life, it's definitely about restructuring. It's about breaking things down to the absolute bare bones, the foundation, to rebuild on stronger, more level ground, right? And that's something that, you know, you have to embrace that in every area of life. Like you have to embrace that in relationships sometimes. Like sometimes you really do have to pull all the way back in order to rebuild, because if the foundation of something is shaky, it will never be solid. Like if you think about a house built on a shaky foundation, it doesn't matter how gorgeous the house is, it will come down before it's time. And so that's something that I keep in mind when it feels like I'm kind of like in a season of things, kind of like it seems like things are falling apart. I have to trust, because I truly do. I see the vision that God has put on my heart for my life, and I can't sit here and act like that's something I dreamt up. Like, no, that was put in me. I didn't create that vision for my life. And so I have to trust that, again, everything happens for a reason, but it's all part of God's will for whatever my destination is. So those seasons that even feel like everything is falling apart is for a reason. It's so I can rebuild stronger and better. You know what I mean? So that's the space I'm in. I'm trying to, I'm currently accepting all that God is bringing to my life, that God is taking me through. Because even in my absolute hardest season, like the days where I didn't think I would make it to the next, or the moments that felt like the walls of life were closing in on me, like I'm still here. You know what I mean? 3 years later, 3 of the hardest years of my life, and I'm still here. I'm still able to smile. I'm still able to laugh. I'm still able to find joy and find happiness, you know, in my life, in the midst of all the pain and all the sadness and all the turmoil, right? So that's the season I'm in. I'm in the season of rebuilding. I'm in the season of finding myself again, and I won't even say again, but finding who the current and new version of me is. I got really caught up for a while in this whole, like, I need to get back to. I want to get back to, like, I want to get back to that size. I want to get back to that work ethic. I want to get back to that schedule. And I had to really, like, look myself in the mirror and be like, listen, your life today is not the life that you had at that time. And it's not to say that you can't accomplish what you did then 10 times over, but it's to say that it's going to look different. So I had to learn to embrace that things will look different, and that is by design. And there is no reason for me to sit here and try to get back to a version of me that was 5 years ago. You know, and it also is a bit of a, it also doesn't serve the person I am today, because even though that version did great things, this version of me is capable of far more than that version was. Just given my experiences, the growth I've sustained as a person, the growth I've sustained as a professional. And so I would be remiss to throw this version of myself away trying to get back to a previous version of myself. And I recently posted a video about that. I was talking about how, like, we get to a certain level, and for whatever reason, the default becomes condemning the previous version of ourselves. The way I look at it is, today's version of myself, yourself, would not exist without yesterday's version. For example, take weight loss, right? You know, somebody loses weight. Like, I know this was something, I don't think I dealt with this, like, I don't think this was a huge issue for me, but I'm sure I dealt with this, like, shortly after my weight loss. But, you know, you lose a lot of weight, right? And now the slim version of you looks at the bigger version of you with disgust, right? You're like, she was eating that, she was wearing that, she was looking like that. You kind of like, you condemn and put down this former version of yourself. But the fact of the matter is, the version of you today that is slimmer, healthier, whatever it is that version would not exist had that previous version of you not become fed up, not, desire more for themselves, had they not started looking for ways to make changes. Like that, the version you are today is only due to the previous version of yourself. And so I've been very careful with choosing my words in this season and not looking at this previous version of myself before the trauma, before before all of the things, right? As if she was better than the person today. Because let's be honest, that version of me is the reason that, I sought therapy when I felt overwhelmed. The reason I was open about therapy and how much I needed help. That version of me is the reason I, have no shame even talking to a camera right now about what I've been through and just being able to open up. Like, I am able to have this conversation with this camera and to share my story and my journey because the previous version of me sought those things. And so it's something that I've been, sharing with people around me, but also just something I've been very, very intentional with myself about. And that is speaking life over all versions of myself. The versions of me 5 years ago, the version of me today, and definitely the version of me 5 years from now. Trusting that each version of me is the best version of myself in that season, and knowing that I will continue to grow and evolve past this point. I'll get off my soapbox, but that's what I wanted to say on that. So that's the season I'm in, right? Getting ready to go back to school. And the thing that I have to applaud myself on is I will not give up. Like, one thing about me, I am not a quitter. I might take a nap. Okay, I might take a nap, but I'm not going to quit, right? So if you are going through a hard time, if this is the season that feels like it is breaking you, lean into whatever you feel like you need. If it's therapy, if it's medication. Like, I am so open about doing whatever it takes to be my best, healthiest self. And I am really working to destigmatize therapy in the Black community, psychiatric services in the Black community, medication in the Black community, and just really, not even, well, specifically the Black community, but honestly, everybody can benefit from a safe place to talk about what they're going through, to express themselves openly, to just not feel shame for needing help or wanting help with things, because we are living in unprecedented times. Like, unprecedented times. Our parents lived through wars and they have still not experienced everything we've experienced in our short, in our very short amount of time. And so living in unprecedented times, going through inflation, going through a global pandemic, all these mass shootings, like all of these things that are traumatic that we are ingesting on a daily basis, you need to talk to somebody. Period. Point blank. And there's nothing wrong with it. So I am really working to talk to anybody who will listen about therapy, about just getting things off of their chest. And I can make a whole separate video about like my therapy journey, and just, how that's helped me and how I know it will help others too. But so that's the season I'm in. Pouring into myself and doing whatever it takes to get to whatever the future best version of myself is, and taking this version of myself with me. So that's what I've been doing. Also, it's August, and I have made the decision to go vegetarian again. I don't fully know why. Part of me really appreciated the amount of discipline I had when I was vegetarian, but the other part of me, given all the health issues I've had in recent, like just this first half of the year, I know that when I was vegetarian, I was the healthiest I'd ever been, and I felt the best I'd ever felt. And I want to be able to give my body a good foundation so that whatever things come at me, I'm stronger and healthier than I feel like I've been. I had gotten kind of lazy with my diet. I shared in a previous video that I'm pescatarian. Have been for about four and a half years. And pescatarian has been a great journey, but I became very lazy with my diet and stopped cooking as much and was kind of relying on, like really I won't say unhealthy, but just not, I wasn't going for like the best things when I was eating. And I know when I'm vegetarian, I am very consistent. And I know when I'm vegetarian, I'm very intentional because I do not like over processed food. So, you know, I don't do a lot of the meat substitutes. Like I try to keep that like to a minimum. So I'm just looking forward to feeling healthier and having more energy and just all of the things. So I made that decision. Like I said, grad school is starting back up, rebuilding my business, making some huge changes there. And just like, it's crystal season. It just really is. It's crystal season. And I feel like the best gift I've given myself in 2025 so far has been the gift of selfishness. I think that being selfish or learning how and when to be selfish is one of the greatest gifts you can give yourself. Because if you are anything like me, if you have had any experiences with being a people pleaser, if you grew up with emotionally inept parents who, you know, maybe were passive aggressive or maybe a little narcissistic, or you always had to kind of be, you had to be on your toes to make sure you were managing the dynamics in the home, you are likely burnt out and you likely put yourself dead last. And something that I have been so absolutely intentional about this year is saying no. And my no being my no. Being honest when I don't have the capacity. Like I am a true textbook introvert, right? Absolutely love people. So let's just dive into what introvert is. And this is something that really gets under my skin because people think introverts are antisocial, and that's really not what an introvert or an extrovert is. It has nothing to do with being social. It has everything to do with the way that you recharge. So for me, a textbook introvert, I need to be alone to recharge. But with that, my social meter runs out very quickly. And I, you know, being, you know, in the influencer space, being in the content creator space, being a business owner, just having, you know, lots of friends and just knowing lots of people, I had gotten in this loop of just like being everywhere all the time for everybody and not showing up for myself. And that on top of managing grief before I knew it was grief, still showing up for my mother, still, you know, being present for my business. Like I was spreading myself too thin. And one thing that I did when I made the choice to really be a little bit more selfish is that I was perfectly okay with whatever I had to lose in order to put myself first. If that was people, if that was opportunities, I had to get a beat on myself before I could pour into anything else. And I would do that 10 times over if it got me to the point I'm at today. Because giving, like you only have so much. And so if you look up and you are the thing that is always getting the crumbs, that will catch up to you. So I have been so unapologetic about being selfish this year. And like I said, I feel like socially it has cost me a lot. I feel like I don't get as many invites as I used to get. My phone doesn't ring as much as it used to. I mean, it's unfortunate, but like I said, there's no world in which I could choose other people over myself anymore. I had done it too much and I had done it for too long. And so I had to tap in with myself. I'm not a good fake smiler. Okay? I am not good at being fake. I'm not good at showing up in spaces, and that's just never been something that I've been good at. It's not something I want to get good at either. I want to be able to show up fully when I am present in spaces, especially if they're optional. Like I'm not being paid to be there. I haven't signed anything to be there. I don't want to show up in spaces just to show up, and then I show up as a lesser version of myself. So I was okay with missing out on things because I simply had to figure out where I was. How you gonna manage grief for 2+ years and you never sit with yourself? Like when you're spending time alone, you're feeling it because you don't wanna actually feel what you're feeling. Like this journey has taught me so much about myself. It has grown me in so many ways that I never would have even imagined. But yeah, I'm just thankful. Like I'm thankful to be in the space I'm in. I'm excited to, finish my program. I'm excited to pour back into my business. I'm excited to, rediscover my relationship with fitness and really get back in the gym. Like I'm excited for what's to come. This is the first time in a long time that I truly am looking forward to this next season of my life. My birthday is coming up. You know what I mean? It's just like all good things, all good things. And I am focusing forward, and I have the previous version of me to thank for that. So that is a little bit of a life update, y'all. If you have any questions about anything I talked about in this video, please feel free to drop them in the comments. I would love to talk more. If you have a similar caregiver journey that you're going through, or maybe if you have words of encouragement, feel free to leave them. If you have any questions, like if you want me to dive a little deeper into anything, make sure you leave that in the comments. Follow me on Instagram at I am Crystal White, and on TikTok at Crystal X White. I've been posting on my TikTok a lot more, which has been fun, because like TikTok, I feel like it's like a visual diary. Like, get up there and say what you gotta say and keep it moving, and that's been fun for me. But yeah, keep in touch with me. I will definitely start posting more. I didn't even tell y'all about this. The reason I stopped posting for a while, I had dropped my camera. I ain't have it for a lens. So that camera sat there broken, babe. I was like, you two gonna have to wait. You're gonna have to wait. But here we are. We're back. We're back. And I definitely can't wait to talk to y'all again. So make sure y'all talk to me in the comments so we can get this channel back grooving. Love y'all so much. Appreciate all the support. Appreciate the people who were saying to me like, hey, when are we gonna get more YouTubes? Like, when are you gonna start posting again? Thank y'all for letting me know that I needed to get back to this, because even today, this video has been so therapeutic for myself, and I hope it touches somebody else and gives them the strength to be able to transition whatever difficult season they're in. So I will talk to y'all later. Bye.